You're a career employee in Joe Biden's Justice Department serving as U.S. Attorney for his home state, a job you wouldn't have if not sponsored by the state's Democratic senators, both lifelong Joe allies. That's an important point that's lost in all this Trump appointed U.S. Attorney in Delaware. You only get backed for U.S. Attorney at the state level for these dum-dums who don't know by getting the backing of the senators in that state. And of course, the senators in Delaware are Democrats
Right.
and Biden allies. So Trump got the best prosecutor he could get with the backing of the two Dem senators and Joe allies. Who are you going to get? Trump appointed, blah, blah, blah. Nonsense. But anyway, you're a career employee in Joe Biden's Justice Department, serving as U.S. Attorney for his home state. Job you wouldn't have if not sponsored by the state's two Democrat senators, both lifelong Biden allies. Are you going to throw the book at his son Hunter? Of course not. The answer could not be otherwise. After all, more worrisome to the public even than evidence of favoritism would be an inkling that Biden's DOJ was going out of its way to undermine its own president. That's exactly what the hue and cry would have been if they did go after Hunter, and they do try to work their way from Hunter to the big guy. That's election interference. The press will pay attention when they claim it. Now, the other side. You're in the unique position of a Justice Department special counsel given unlimited resource to investigate a single person, the president's political enemy, Donald Trump. Do you play conservatively despite knowing that any indictment today would be more politically useful to your president than a conviction after the election? Of course not. Of course not. And that's politics trumping the rule of law. And it seems to be systemic at FBI and DOJ. Doesn't it? Another development that has some tangential relevance is this overturning of a conviction of a KPMG auditor and accounting regulator, a case that was brought by the Southern District of New York. The case involved auditors abetted by regulators cheating on inspection exams. Yeah, it's dishonest, but it wasn't a crime. See, not everything that is an example of dishonesty is a federal crime. This seems to be lost in the minds of some who just want the law to be used to persecute whoever they don't like. And unfortunately, some of those people are in the FBI and the Department of Justice. They're not just yahoos on Twitter. Elena Kagan writing for the court. Elena Kagan. The evidence the jury heard no doubt shows wrongdoing, deception, corruption, abuse of power, but the federal fraud statutes at issue do not criminalize all such conduct. Just because you're wrong or just because you operated in bad faith, it does not necessarily mean you committed a federal crime. What a revolutionary concept. And how many examples do we need to have before it penetrates the gray matter of some? You've had overturned convictions for Cuomo's cronies. You've had overturned convictions for Chris Christie's cronies, the whole traffic jam, the conspiracy to jam up traffic case back when he was governor. You've had overturning of the convictions of Bob McDonnell, the former Virginia governor, by the way, a case brought by Jack Smith. And also, in the court's landmark Skilling decision, prosecutions under vague honest services fraud claims were to be limited. But as the Journal opines, prosecutors keep inventing new theories to criminalize dishonest acts and keep losing cases on appeal. They just can't help themselves to stretch criminal laws to try to jail people they find objectionable. And that's not the standard. I don't like you is not a legal standard. And here we are with the FBI saying you got to re-up Section 702 of the FISA Act to give us powers to spy on foreign threats to America. The same power they abused in 204,000 searches of American names within the FISA, with the foreign surveillance data collected by the FBI. I mean, In the immortal words of Joe Biden, come on, man. Kevin Brock, former Assistant Director of Intelligence for the FBI and former Principal Deputy Director of the National Counterterrorism Center, joins us now. Kevin, thank you as always.
Thank you, Dan. Good morning, Amy.
Morning.
How you doing?
Good morning.
I know you're just a glutton for punishment coming on this show. I know you must feel it. Sorry.
It's all right. He can handle
I
it.
thought we were going to talk about the U.S. women's soccer team.
Well, we could talk about that
would
too.
do that, yeah. The kick that wasn't.
No, Amy's very happy for the Swedish national team
Yeah,
because she's Swedish.
Because I'm Swedish and they're hot.
And she's a traitor. No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm an American first, but if any team's going to beat them, let it be the Swedes.
Yeah. All right, enough soccer talk.
There you go.
All right, so what about that? What is Section 702? Chris Wray testified. We need to re-up that. It's a really important tool for us protecting America. And there's a lot of Republicans, House and Senate Republicans, that are resistant because Christopher Wray is the one asking for it, because Christopher Wray's stewardship of the FBI, some of the things I just mentioned. Where do you come down on that? Is that, I know it's your old agency, but is that the sort of reckoning maybe the FBI needs to have Section 702 not re-upped?
I think it would be a mistake not to re-up, and I'll tell you why. The Christopher Wray is not a good explainer. Every time he goes before Congress, we're frustrated because he'll hide behind no comments or it's an ongoing investigation statements, which as executives in the FBI, we were all trained how to explain, how to get around that and provide more fulsome explanations behind things. And it's like he never trained in that regard. 702, most Americans have no clue what we're talking about. It's a very short section within the Patriot Act that basically says, hey, in order to prevent another 9/11, we want to make sure that any bad guy, any known or suspected terrorist out there in foreign lands who's been in touch with an American phone number is at least looked at. And before that, there was restrictions on sharing that kind of intelligence between the NSA and the FBI. Make perfect logical sense in the days after 9/11. Everybody said, yeah, absolutely, it was bipartisan. Let's go. Yeah, we want to make sure we at least do that. Now, over the years, that database of contacts has grown and grown and grown. Not just numbers, but as I understand it, captured communications. And the controversy is, can law enforcement look at those numbers or even the content of those calls without a warrant? And so if the answer is properly no, they should not be able to, then those reforms of the reform of 702 should be put in place and the FBI made to follow it. It's murky as to what the abuses were exactly. Was it just checking a database of numbers? Was it checking names? Was it checking content of conversations? And audited, IG findings have shown that the FBI looked at that database in a way that could be interpreted as improper, as violative of the Fourth Amendment. And so steps have been taken, according to Wray, to get back in line and make sure that there's tighter restrictions on those inquiries. If that's the case, if they found these violations, they've taken steps to remediate them. Maybe some letters of censure were put out for people who accessed it improperly because they were nosy about a neighbor or an ex-girlfriend. Great. Then we know they're taking these steps. But it's probably not sufficient reason, in my view, to do away with the whole program.
It was
shown its value.
Well, they were looking reportedly at names of January 6th protesters, donors to a particular Republican congressional campaign. So it's not just ex-girlfriends. It's
abusive.
It has the stench of targeting, which is nothing new to this FBI.
That's correct, particularly in today's environment when there's high suspicions that the FBI is acting more in favor of one political party over another. Thank you, James Comey. So, yeah, absolutely. If these things are found, they need to be assurances need to be made to Congress that it's been recognized, fixed, and won't happen again. We'll see.
But doesn't Section 702 authorize the targeted collection of foreign intelligence information from non-U.S. persons located abroad?
Amy, there's a different standard for non-U.S. persons. You're exactly right, because they are not afforded Fourth Amendment protections. And so there's a little more leeway as to what the government can do as as far as intrusiveness and looking at these people, and most Americans would agree. We would want an intelligence collection capability that's looking at foreigners who are a threat to this country.
Why is the FBI in that business in the first place? I mean, the Wall Street Journal takes the same position that you do and says, rather than stripping the FBI of this authority, better to expand the penalties for agents who abuse the authority. But expanding penalties for agents, that doesn't do anything. I mean, Kevin Kleinsmith can doctor a material piece of evidence used in a FISA warrant, and he gets a slap on the wrist. So what do penalties mean in this environment with this Department of Justice? So maybe the FBI should just be out of this business altogether. I mean, how many redundant agencies do we need engaged in the same law enforcement activities?
Well, you bring up two main points. Number one, the fact that when bad things are uncovered, nobody gets in trouble.
Censure
there's
letter.
no penalty.
We don't. When bad things happen, we can't. We don't even get them identified. We're still waiting to hear about the results of that long-running investigation into the Richmond office about a memo. I mean, that takes years and years and years to investigate a freaking memo.
The most abusive thing that has happened by FBI leadership in the last few years was the contrived Crossfire hurricane case. The three principals who contrived it, Comey, McCabe, and Strzok, are all making great money, appearing on TV and writing books, and there's been, and McCabe, who was fired and stripped of his part of his pension, that was all restored, no harm, no foul. There's no consequence for egregious actions and violations of abuses of power, and Congress and its oversight, until there's a greater insistence on visibility or a line of sight on what type of penalties are attached for these abusive actions, then you can reform the Bureau all you want, but nothing's going to change.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. So why not shrink its footprint? No, you're not doing this anymore.
Well, then who picks it up? The reason for that, Dan, real quick, and I didn't get pedantic on this, but we have decided as a nation that there's a line of demarcation between our efforts to collect intelligence on foreigners and our efforts to collect intelligence on Americans, and that only the FBI has the authorities under Title 50 to collect intelligence on Americans. So if you take it away from the FBI, then you're going to have to give that authority elsewhere in government. Does that fix the problem? I'm not so sure. An argument can be raised, and has been raised since 9/11, should the FBI have a dual mission of law enforcement, enforcing the criminal statutes of this country, and collecting intelligence, for threats against the country? And some have argued, no, it should be a dual system like they have in Canada and England. And others have said, no, it's a greater efficiency if it's concentrated in one agency. That debate can still go on.
Have you ever had any interactions with Jack Smith over your career? Did you guys overlap at all?
Jack Smith, the sacrificial lamb? No, I didn't. I will tell you this, that any investigation that I conducted and brought to the U.S. Attorney's Office had to be so incredibly airtight for them to take it to court. Anything short of a confession or audio-visual evidence, they really wouldn't take much of a chance on. They're that cautious about bringing a prosecution that might lead to an acquittal. Here we have 4 charges by Jack Smith brought against Donald Trump that are so wide open and probably going to be easily overcome by his defense team, that it gives rise to the question: is why would a prosecutor take a reputational chance on this? Well, the answer is the reputation is already bad. Because the case you alluded to earlier, the Bob McDonnell case, where the Supreme Court overturned it 9-0. He has no reputation to salvage, so that's why I refer to him as kind of a sacrificial lamb from the prosecutive side. For the Democrats can put him up, and he'll bring any case they ask him to, and he's not concerned about a conviction. This whole thing is aimed towards getting Donald Trump off the board for the 2024 election.
Well, get him.
Yeah,
I think it's getting him on the board for the 2024 ballot is what this is aimed at. In my view, getting him on the board. This is who they want. This is who they've always wanted. This is why they obsess about it.
Yeah, it used to be get them off the board. Now they want them on the
Yeah.
ballot, and but
they're just messing with
they
him.
can't make it.
Well,
Regardless, they're
and
making his life hell.
Well, and Kevin, I don't know. He seems to be somewhat enjoying it. Kevin Brock. I mean, Kevin on Jack Smith. The other thing. I mean, why not throw in with the Democrats? I mean, after all this, regardless, as you say, of outcome, I get to hang a shingle. My name is going to be of counsel at a big firm. I'm going to make all kinds of money. I could get a sinecure at Georgetown like Peter Strzok or some other Tony position, because that's what's going to happen. He's going to make money. He's going to
That's right.
sell. Maybe he'll write a book. Whatever he wants to do, all avenues are open because the Democrats in control of all these institutions will open the doors for him. So why not throw in with the Democrats, which is what he's doing.
Well, that's a great point. He'll be on MSNBC every day.
Yeah, it'll be the Jack Smith and Jim Comey show. I can't wait.
Jack and Jim at 9.
Yeah, Jack and
9
Jim.
p.m. Central.
I love it.
I'll do it.
There you go.
Kevin Brock, former assistant director of Intel for the FBI, former principal deputy director of the National Counterterrorism Center as well. Kevin, thank you as always.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
A few days ago, I was fortunate to attend Family Day on the U.S.